back in North London this afternoon. Spurs were up against a Leicester side who had lost their previous 7 games. Spurs took the lead in the game through Richarlison in the starting lineup for the first time this season, but as you can see, it was Ruud van Nistelrooy rejoicing at the full-time whistle, boos ringing out into the ears of Ange Postecoglou and his boss, Daniel Levy. Spurs beaten again. Well, there you go. That was the reaction from some of those watching Tottenham fans. This is, of course, not just one bad result for Tottenham. This is a growing trend of miserable form. The last 10 games, they've collected 4 points. And only Southampton have a worse record over those 10 games. 8 defeats out of 10. 1 win and 1 draw. How low can they go, Jamie?
Well, right now, that's relegation form. Are they going to be in a relegation fight in the season? Absolutely not. I don't think that's going to be the case. But I think they're tracking for sort of pretty much a point a game. It's just not good enough. You know, you looked at that team today. Ben Davies is back. Dragusin, still got good players up front. Obviously, Solanke, Van der Ven, Romero, important players for them. But that is really shocking. You're 1-0 up at half-time. You felt that we were actually watching the game during the Crystal Palace one, so we were briefly watching. And you felt whoever scored the first goal, if Tottenham can score at home, they should be fine, they should go on and win it. But second half, they were a shadow of themselves, of the team. They just never got going, never got any impetus. They look, at times, terrified to get on the ball. And it's a real worry, And I will also say that the manager needs a little bit of help. What's the date today? Is it 20... And how far into the transfer window are we? 26. 26 days. He hasn't had a great deal of help. That manager needs... They're down to what we call bare bones. Just maybe even go and find a couple of loans for him. They brought in a goalkeeper. Yeah, they probably needed to do that. But just give him a little bit of support. You've lost Solanke now and you've lost other midfield players. It just feels like the manager needs a bit of help, needs a bit of backing if you believe in him. He's got huge games coming up. I think we all look at the game against against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. That feels like a massive game for his Tottenham future, and I think he'll still be the manager up till then. If they were to go out of that, I think there's going to be a lot of question marks because this form just can't carry on, especially with the history of other managers leaving.
Lee, do you think other teams are now looking forward to playing Spurs?
Well, when the chips are down, that's exactly what you want. We've seen it with City, didn't we? City were struggling and, everyone was wanting to come up against them because they found that there was certainly a chance of taking all 3 points. But I'm looking at Ange and I think, I can understand that he's got all these injuries and he's got all these problems and he does need the help. But the question is, who can come in if they end up taking him out of the equation? Because there's no one really out there that could probably fit the bill to
I could think of a couple of good managers, but I'd also be nervous to do it if I was
there. But that'd be my only thought is who could come in to sort of turn the club around, particularly with all the injuries. I don't think anything's going to change if they do so. But you heard the boos and the jeers right at the end.
It's getting louder, isn't it? Yeah. The derision against the those in the powers. We've talked about this on Monday Night Football, Jamie. I sort of made the case of the mounting injury problems that they had, but you said it's not a good enough excuse. Other teams are coping. Is that still your feeling around Spurs?
I think they're coping better. I think we also should say that a lot of the injuries, I think, come from the way the manager plays. It's a really high-intensity game. He had similar problems with Celtic. I go back to the situation that they find themselves in with the centre-backs. Now, it almost feels like this whole team is built on the centre-backs, especially with Van der Ven at the back. But to bring them back so quickly in that game against Chelsea, the 2 of them come off injured, that has to be on the manager or the medical staff. And we highlighted on Monday Night Football when they played Chelsea, they didn't alter the tactics, they played exactly the same way, which was Van der Ven on the halfway line chasing Jackson to a corner flag. He ends up pulling his hamstring. I mean, it's not just unlucky about injuries. That goes down to maybe how you train, how your team play. So it's a bit of luck now and again, but it's not a real mitigating factor if you're going to get injuries with the way a manager plays, and he's got a history of getting those injuries. But I'm in a situation where who would you bring in? I think you've got to allow him to get his players back. They're not going to get relegated. Allow him to have the cup competitions. Who knows, the second half of the season, you get your 2 centre-backs back, Solanke back. You can have a decent run in that Europa League, because I don't think there's great strength in that Europa League. And then you go from there. I don't think they should be changing that anytime soon. Let him get his players back and get to the end of the season. But
could still end with a trophy. Could still end with the trophy, but with Spurs out of the picture, Manchester United out of the picture in terms of Europe, there are opportunities this season for others, and others are indeed taking advantage of it.